There are moments in life, quiet, fleeting moments, when we pause just long enough to wonder. What is true happiness? And am I truly living? Most of the time, that question drifts away like a passing breeze, soft and unnoticed, lost in the noise of a busy life. But if one day you stop long enough to listen deeply, you may hear a whisper from within. That happiness isn't something to chase or acquire, it's something you return to, gently, by letting go. Modern life burdens us with expectations, to do more, to be more, to prove our worth. Society measures value in speed, productivity, success. And so, we fall into the current, always moving, always striving, always comparing. We learn to ignore the quiet voice of our inner world, replacing it with the loud demands of the outer one. And before we know it, we find ourselves lost in a life that feels like it isn't truly ours. In Buddhist teaching, this state is called ignorance, or avijja, not because we are unintelligent, but because we fail to see things clearly. We are clouded by desire, by fear, by habits of distraction. But the miracle is this: clarity is always available. It doesn't have to be earned. It just needs to be remembered. Sometimes, all it takes is a single mindful breath, a quiet reflection, or a few words of truth to open a doorway back to the present. Because, as the Buddha taught, happiness doesn't come from gaining more, but from wanting less. It doesn't come from having everything, but from understanding deeply. It isn't found out there, it arises from within, from a place no one else can touch. In a world full of noise and speed, the simple act of turning inward becomes revolutionary. This isn't about running away from life, but rather meeting it with full awareness. You don't need to become a monk or leave the world behind. You simply need to learn how to live deeply, even in the ordinary moments. That may sound easy, but it isn't. Because the mind is restless, constantly jumping between memories of the past and worries about the future. Rarely are we truly here, in the now. Yet, this moment, this breath, is the only place life ever happens. It's the only moment in which we can love, forgive, understand, and be fully alive. The Buddha once said, "A peaceful mind is more precious than gold." But how can we find that peace, when the world is so chaotic, and our own thoughts won't let us rest? The answer is simple: we come home. Not to a place, but to a way of being. We return to what we've forgotten: gratitude, mindfulness, connection, letting go, and truly knowing ourselves. Many people go through life without ever really living, because they are always chasing. Chasing perfection, chasing approval, chasing an image of who they think they should be. But the more they chase, the emptier they feel. This is why the Buddha didn't teach us to gain more, but to release. Release clinging. Release resistance. Release suffering. The path of awakening doesn't begin by changing the world outside, it begins by changing the way we see it. When the mind becomes still, everything looks different. When we breathe mindfully, even walking becomes sacred. When we live with gratitude, even small things feel full and alive. Imagine waking up one morning, not feeling rushed or behind. You sit with a warm cup of tea. Hear the birds in the distance, feel the sun on your skin, and suddenly realize, I'm not surviving. I'm truly living. This isn't fantasy. This is the life that unfolds naturally when you slow down. Look within, and live with intention. And you're not alone. The words of the Buddha and generations of awakened teachers are still here, lighting the way, waiting for you to remember what you already know in your heart. Today, you stand at the edge of something profound, not a race forward, but a return. A return to simplicity. A return to stillness. A return to what really matters. This video will guide you through 7 timeless principles rooted in Buddhist wisdom. They're not grand or complex, they're humble, grounded, and transformative. Each one offers a shift in perspective, a softening of heart, a step closer to inner freedom. Not the kind of happiness that depends on circumstances, but the kind that no one can take from you. The happiness of knowing who you truly are. Are you ready to begin? This journey isn't about becoming someone else. It's about coming home to the person you've always been, beneath the noise, beyond the doubt, in the still center of your being. All it takes is one breath. One moment. One quiet step inward. If this path speaks to your heart, consider subscribing to the Dharma Journey, where we explore the timeless teachings of Buddhism, find healing from within, and rediscover a life of depth, simplicity, and peace. 1. Gratitude, a doorway to true joy. In a world obsessed with achieving more, earning more, and becoming more, we often forget to pause and recognize what we already have. We are conditioned to believe that happiness lies just beyond the next goal, in the next promotion, the next relationship, the next destination. But the truth, whispered quietly through the wisdom of the Buddha, is this: joy is not something we chase, it is something we notice. Gratitude is one of the most powerful and yet most overlooked spiritual practices. It is not merely a polite "thank you" or a momentary feeling of appreciation, it is a deep awareness of the sacredness of what is already present. Gratitude is a way of seeing, of living, of waking up to the richness of this very moment. Buddhist teachings emphasize that suffering arises when we crave what is not here, when we grasp at illusions or push away reality. But gratitude calls us back. It grounds us. It gently redirects our attention from what is missing to what is here, from lack to abundance, from dissatisfaction to contentment. Let us rise up and be thankful, the Buddha once said. For if we didn't learn a lot today, at least we learned a little. And if we didn't learn a little, at least we didn't get sick. And if we did get sick, at least we didn't die. So, let us all be thankful. This is not blind optimism. This is radical awareness, choosing to look directly at life as it is, and finding beauty even in imperfection. Gratitude is not ignoring pain or pretending everything is fine. It is acknowledging suffering and still choosing to see what remains beautiful. What is still possible, what quietly supports us even in our darkest moments. When we begin to cultivate gratitude, the texture of our life changes. The mundane becomes sacred. A cup of warm tea on a rainy morning becomes a blessing. The steady rhythm of your breath, something you've never paid attention to, becomes a miracle. The kindness of a stranger. The sound of rustling leaves, a fleeting moment of silence in a noisy world, these are no longer overlooked, but cherished. Gratitude is also profoundly healing. It softens the heart. When we are grateful, anger melts, jealousy fades, and comparison weakens. There is simply no space for both deep gratitude and resentment to exist in the same moment. One displaces the other. You may wonder, but how do I feel grateful when everything around me is falling apart? And the answer lies in this: start small. Even amidst grief, there is something to hold on to. A breath. A memory. The sun that rises faithfully each day, regardless of whether we feel ready to greet it. Gratitude is not about denying hardship, it is about finding the quiet thread of goodness that runs through it all. A simple practice. One of the most effective ways to anchor gratitude into daily life is through a simple practice, a gratitude journal. Each evening, before going to bed, take a few minutes to write down 3 things you are grateful for. They don't need to be profound. They can be simple. I'm grateful for the delicious soup I had for lunch. I'm grateful for the message from an old friend. I'm grateful I made it through this difficult day. This act trains the mind to search for goodness. And the mind, like anything, becomes what it practices. Over time, you'll find yourself noticing more, appreciating more, opening more. Even your perception of challenges may shift, not as punishments, but as teachers. Rewiring the mind. Neuroscience now supports what the Buddha taught centuries ago: the brain is not fixed. It changes based on what we repeatedly focus on. When you practice gratitude regularly, you literally reshape your brain, strengthening pathways related to empathy, positivity, and resilience. You begin to default not to scarcity and stress, but to appreciation and calm. What once seemed ordinary, waking up, seeing the sky, hearing your child's voice, becomes extraordinary. And this is the quiet revolution that gratitude brings. It doesn't shout. It doesn't flash. It doesn't promise immediate ecstasy. Instead, it roots you, in life, in presence, in the preciousness of things as they are. Gratitude and impermanence. In Buddhism, there is a deep teaching on impermanence, that all things arise and pass away. Nothing is fixed. Everything changes. Gratitude and impermanence are intimately linked. When you truly understand that nothing lasts forever, not your youth, not your loved ones, not even your own body, you begin to hold things more tenderly. You stop taking moments for granted. You start to say, thank you, for the now, because you know it is fleeting. That single moment when your child runs into your arms, that sunrise you almost didn't wake up for. That mundane conversation with your aging parent, these moments are unrepeatable. And when you live with gratitude, you begin to live fully. Because you know every heartbeat is a gift that won't come again. The true wealth. Gratitude also redefines what it means to be rich. You may not have the biggest house, or the fanciest clothes, or the perfect job. But if your heart is full of appreciation, if you can look at a meal and say, this is enough. If you can sit quietly and feel joy in simply being, then you are already wealthy beyond measure. This is the kind of abundance no economy can measure. It is quiet, internal, deeply rooted. It is the kind of richness that no one can steal from you, because it comes not from what you possess, but from how you perceive. An invitation to begin. So today, I invite you to begin, not later. Not when life is easier, not when everything is perfect, but now. Right now. Look around. What can you give thanks for in this moment? Is it the light falling gently across your floor? The rhythm of your breath? The fact that you have this moment to be alive, aware, and listening? Gratitude doesn't require you to change your life. It only asks that you be present for it. And in that presence, you may just discover a happiness that was always waiting for you, not in the distance, not after you achieve something else, but here. In the gentle unfolding of this exact moment. 2. True connection, the energy that nourishes the soul. No one was born to be alone. Whether a monk meditating on a mountaintop or a layperson navigating the chaos of the modern world, we all share a quiet, undeniable need to feel truly connected. In Buddhism, the path toward enlightenment is not one of isolation, but of presence. True presence with ourselves. True presence with others. It is in these connections, genuine, mindful, and kind, that the seeds of compassion are planted. And from compassion, awakening begins to bloom. You can be surrounded by people and still feel the ache of loneliness. Because loneliness is not the absence of company. It is the absence of true connection. True connection isn't measured in the number of conversations you have or the friends you accumulate. It's not about constant contact, but about conscious presence. When someone sits across from you, looks into your eyes without rushing, listens without judgment, and simply stays, that moment, no matter how brief, becomes a sacred offering to the soul. Listening, a doorway into the heart. To listen is to love. Not the kind of listening that waits to respond, interrupt, or offer advice, but the kind that makes the other person feel safe to be real. Deep listening is a spiritual act. It says, I honor your life. I recognize your suffering. And often, that is all someone truly needs. Not a solution. Not an answer. Just a space to be heard, without shame, without fixing, without fear. Some people carry loneliness for years. Not because they're unloved, but because no one has ever listened to them with their whole heart. A simple glance of tenderness, a nod of understanding, can sometimes be more healing than 1,000 words. Love doesn't need to be perfect to be real. We often fall into the trap of believing that love must be deserved, earned, or proven. But in Buddhist wisdom, true compassion is unconditional. It doesn't ask, "Are you good enough for my love?" It asks, "Can I love without needing anything in return?" Sometimes, love is as simple as checking in with someone who's been silent. Sometimes, it's a warm cup of tea for someone in pain. Sometimes, it's the quiet strength of sitting beside a friend who's grieving. Saying nothing, yet saying everything. You don't need to do something big to make a difference. A gentle presence, when offered sincerely, can soften even the most guarded heart. It nourishes not only the one who receives it, but the one who gives it, too. Presence, the most precious gift. We live in an age of distraction. We eat together, but stare at screens. We talk, but only half listen. We share a space, but our minds are elsewhere. But presence, true presence, is a rare and healing thing. To be fully here, in this moment, with another person, without rushing. Without distraction, without wanting anything in return, this is love in its purest form. Presence says, "I see you. I'm not looking past you, or through you. I'm here with you." And in a world where so many feel unseen, unheard, unloved, that kind of presence is more powerful than any advice, more healing than any cure. Small acts of kindness. Infinite impact. You don't have to fix someone's life to touch their heart. A short message, just thinking of you. A sincere compliment, you make the world a little better just by being in it. A few quiet moments with someone who's struggling, without trying to change their experience. These small gestures, when offered with sincerity and warmth, can save someone from falling into despair. They may not say it. They may not even know it. But your kindness might be the thread that pulls them back to hope. And here's the beautiful paradox. Each time you offer kindness to someone else, your own heart is gently nourished. Compassion is not a one-way street, it flows in both directions. Compassion for yourself. The foundation of all connection. You cannot offer presence, love, or deep connection to others if your own inner world is dry, rigid, or neglected. This is why the Buddhist path begins with returning to ourselves. To breathe. To listen to our own pain without judgment. To care for the wounded parts of ourselves as we would for a beloved friend. Because when we cultivate gentleness within, we naturally become gentle with others. We don't have to try to be kind, we simply are. Our love becomes effortless. Because it no longer flows from obligation, but from wholeness. Connection is a form of awakening. Every encounter is a teacher. The kind people remind us to be grateful. The difficult people challenge our patience. The quiet ones teach us to listen. The ones who hurt us, teach us to forgive. No relationship is meaningless. Each interaction, however brief or intense, has the potential to awaken something deeper in us. Try this. When speaking to someone who serves you, make eye contact. When sitting with loved ones, really listen. When someone triggers your pain, breathe before reacting. These small moments, practiced with awareness, become powerful acts of mindfulness. Connection isn't something outside of you to be found, it is something within you to be awakened. When you open your heart, speak with honesty, and listen with compassion, even the simplest relationship becomes a spiritual path. And in the end, we don't need crowds of people around us. We just need a few genuine connections, where hearts can breathe. Where silence is enough, and where presence becomes prayer. 3. Living fully in the present moment, where true life happens. And then you begin to realize. Every relationship, no matter how sacred or fragile, rests on a single foundation, presence. There can be no true connection without true presence. You may say kind words, perform good deeds. But if your mind is somewhere else, the energy of your love never fully reaches the other person. This is why coming back to the present moment isn't just a path to peace, it's the very heart of love. We often search for happiness in the future, when we achieve something, gain someone, complete a plan. But along that search, we unknowingly abandon the only moment that truly exists, now. In the Buddha's teachings, the present isn't just where life unfolds. It's where suffering transforms. It's where wisdom arises. Because only when the mind stops running, can we truly see ourselves. And when we truly see ourselves, we can finally see others. You cannot love without being here. Think back to the last time you truly sat with someone, not checking your phone. Not thinking of other things, not rushing. Just being fully there. A simple gaze, a shared silence, no need to make the moment more than it is. That is a sacred presence. In any relationship, romantic, familial, or spiritual, if you are not truly present, the bond slowly withers. You don't need to say much. You don't need to do anything grand. Just stop. Breathe. Look at the person in front of you. You will begin to see what they truly need. And in doing so, you may discover what you truly need, too. Presence is the beginning and the end of every authentic connection. A wandering mind is the root of our pain. Why do we often feel lost, anxious, or dissatisfied, even when life seems okay on the outside? Because our mind is not where our body is. One part is trapped in the past, with regrets, anger, longing. Another is pulled into the future, with fears, hopes, and endless to-do lists. And so we drift through life like shadows, missing the richness of the moment we're actually living. The Buddha taught, when walking, just walk. When eating, just eat. When breathing, just breathe. Not because simplicity is a virtue in itself, but because only in complete awareness can we touch the miracle of being alive. Mindfulness in the most ordinary moments. You don't need to go to the mountains to meditate. You don't need to stop working to find peace. You only need to begin with one gentle act. Be where you are. When pouring tea, notice the steam rising softly. When washing your hands, feel the cool water flow over your skin. When walking, feel each footstep kiss the earth beneath you. These tiny acts, when done with deep awareness, become doorways to awakening. And strangely enough, it's often these quiet, ordinary rituals that unlock a sense of peace we thought we had lost. The breath, a bridge back to yourself. When your heart is troubled, when your mind races, when you feel pulled in too many directions, don't try to fix or force. Just return to your breath. Breathing in, I know I'm alive. Breathing out, I smile to what is. Breathing in, I come home to my body. Breathing out, I rest in this moment. No effort. No resistance. Just breathing, with awareness. The breath is your most faithful companion. It's always with you. Through joy and sorrow, loss and discovery, it quietly carries you home. Reality doesn't need fixing, it needs witnessing. We're often taught to control our lives, fix our situations, mold others to our expectations. But the more we try, the more tangled we become. Here's the secret. Peace doesn't come from fixing everything. It comes from fully being with what is. Instead of saying, this shouldn't have happened. Try. It has happened. And I'm still breathing. Instead of, I need others to understand me. Try. I understand myself. Right here. Right now. That simple shift, of being with life as it is, invites healing to begin. Life is happening now, not later. We postpone peace for another day. We postpone love, rest, and joy until some future time. But life is not waiting for us. It's unfolding with or without our awareness. When you come home to this moment, you realize everything you seek has always been here. You discover your loved ones don't need you to be perfect, they need you to be present. And you find that your inner chaos, which felt overwhelming, softens the moment you stop running and simply sit. This is the miracle of the present moment. It's always enough. It asks for nothing but your full attention. 4. Living with meaning, free from the chains of perfection. When you've finally slowed down enough to fully dwell in the present moment, something else begins to stir within. Not loud. Not demanding. But a quiet, persistent question rising from the depths of your being. What am I truly living for? Being present is just the beginning. But to live with intention, to let your breath, your thoughts, and your actions align with something deeper, that is when presence becomes purpose. The illusion of perfection, a beautiful trap of the ego. We grow up being taught to chase perfection. To be more successful. To be more beautiful. To be smarter, stronger, better. To become someone worthy of love, peace, or happiness. But what is the truth? The Buddha's teachings gently remind us that everything in this world is impermanent and incomplete. Even the lotus flower, so pure and revered, blooms from the mud. Even we, at every moment, are an unfolding process, not a finished product. Yet we suffer deeply because of one illusion. Believing that we must become perfect before we can live a meaningful life. Meaning doesn't lie in perfection, it lies in authenticity. You don't need to become someone else. You don't need to meet some idealized version of yourself. You only need to be who you are, truthfully, tenderly, and mindfully. A meaningful life doesn't come from titles or achievements. It comes from knowing what truly matters to you, and living in alignment with it, even in the smallest ways. A gardener tending to flowers with quiet care lives meaningfully. A mother rocking her child in the tired hours of the night lives meaningfully. A practitioner sweeping the meditation hall with presence lives meaningfully. Meaning doesn't require a stage. It only asks that you pour your heart into the act. Let go of the ideal, come back to yourself. There's something you must let go of if you wish to live meaningfully. The idea that you must become great before you're allowed to truly live. No one needs you to be perfect. No Buddha is waiting for you to meet a standard before offering you a smile. Right now. In this moment, with your flaws, your fears, your unfinished growth, you are entirely enough to begin living a meaningful life. Ask yourself gently. What makes my heart light up? What small thing can I do today with full sincerity? If you follow that quiet inner compass, if you live with even a thread of intention, you are already walking the path of meaning. Mistakes are part of the path. We fear failure. We fear judgment. We fear not measuring up. But the truth is, every genuine step of growth involves falling down. In meditation, in Buddhist practice, everything, especially suffering, error, and pain, can become part of the path. There is no experience that's meaningless if we know how to look deeply into it. If you've lost someone, ask how you loved them. If you've failed, ask what your heart has learned. If you've fallen, thank the earth for holding you long enough to stand back up. There is no awakening without darkness. There is no true peace without having walked through the storm. When every day becomes an expression of meaning, you don't need a grand purpose to begin. You just need to live today more mindfully than yesterday. To be more honest, more present, more loving, even just a little. That's all it takes for life to become sacred. And you will see. Not every act must be monumental. But when done with presence and kindness, even the smallest action becomes a sacred offering. Washing a dish. Tying your child's shoelaces. Sending a kind message to a friend. This, too, is sacred. A meaningful life isn't a busy life. To live meaningfully doesn't mean to accomplish more, to collect more. It means to slow down. Refine your direction, hold close what matters, and let go of what distracts you from your true self. You don't have to become someone in the world's eyes. You only have to come back to yourself, more honest, more clear, more loving. When you stop chasing perfection, you finally take the first real step onto the path of meaning. And that path, surprisingly, was never far away. It begins the moment you breathe deeply. Turn inward. And ask yourself with full sincerity, what is worth living for, today? 5. Embracing change as a natural part of life. When you've released your grip on perfection and begun to live with quiet purpose, something else slowly becomes clear. Everything changes. No matter how mindfully you live, how deeply you love, or how sincerely you show up, things will still shift. People change. Feelings fade. Seasons turn. And even you, yes. Even you, are changing every moment. To live meaningfully, then, is to make peace with the ever-changing flow of life. Nothing lasts forever, and that is liberating. One of the core truths in the Buddha's teachings is impermanence. All things are in constant flux. Beauty will fade. Joy will pass. Careers may rise, and they may fall. The one you love most today might one day become only a tender memory. It's not just the change that pains us. It's our resistance to change that causes suffering. We cling to what we've known. We fear the unknown. We long for things to stay the same, even when the nature of life is to move. And yet, in this truth lies the greatest gift. If nothing is fixed, then nothing is stuck. Pain is not eternal. And growth is always possible. We suffer most when we resist the flow. Change itself is not the enemy. What wounds us is our refusal to let go. You suffer because someone left, not only because they left, but because you didn't want them to. You fear aging, not just because it happens, but because you don't accept it. You ache for the past, not because it was better, but because you cannot release it. It is the struggle against what is that tears us apart. But when we begin to flow with change, instead of fighting it, something miraculous happens. We soften. We grow. We begin to trust life again. Change is not loss, it is transformation. If you look deeply into each ending, you'll see the seed of a new beginning. A door closing might open space for a new chapter. A breakup might call you home to love yourself more deeply. A loss might become the mirror that reflects back what truly matters. Change doesn't just take things away, it gives you the opportunity to become. It gives you the chance to pause, reflect, and return to your essence. To peel away what no longer serves you. To begin again, not from emptiness, but from wisdom. The self is not fixed, it's a river. Many of us hold on to identities like armor. We say things like, I'm just not that kind of person. This is who I've always been. I can't change. But if you observe closely, you'll see. You are changing, right now, this very moment. Your cells are renewing. Your thoughts are shifting. Your understanding of life today is different from yesterday. So why hold so tightly to a fixed sense of self? To embrace change is to give yourself permission to grow. You don't have to become someone else, you just have to allow yourself to become more real, more free, more whole. Acceptance is not surrender, it is wisdom. Some confuse acceptance with giving up. But Buddhism doesn't teach passive resignation. It teaches us that to accept is to see clearly, and act wisely from that clarity. To accept your anger is to see it and breathe with it. Not let it explode. To accept that someone is no longer who they used to be is to love them as they are now. To accept life's ups and downs is to live with an inner steadiness. Not a false hope of perfect peace. Acceptance allows you to bend without breaking. To adapt without losing yourself. To remain grounded even in the winds of uncertainty. Meditation, a refuge in the midst of change. When the world around you shifts, you can always return to the breath. Sit down. Breathe gently. Feel what is here. Observe it without judgment. Let each inhale be an invitation to arrive. Let each exhale be a soft release. You don't need to control what's changing. You only need to be present with it. And that presence, that deep witnessing, is your true strength. All change brings you back to yourself. If you look deeply, you'll see. What is taken from you teaches you what truly can't be taken. Who walks away reminds you how to stay with yourself. Every fall is an invitation to meet the earth more honestly, and rise again with new understanding. Nothing is truly lost. Everything is only shifting form. And every shift carries a hidden teaching. Change is inevitable. But accepting it is a conscious choice. And when you choose acceptance, not from fear, but from love and insight, even the most uncertain storms become paths that awaken your heart. 6. Letting go, the art of inner freedom. When you've come far enough to accept change, to stop clinging to the illusion of control, another quiet doorway begins to appear. The path of letting go. This isn't about abandoning what matters to you. It's not about indifference or detachment in the cold sense. Letting go is about allowing things to be as they are, without forcing, without controlling, without clinging. Because the truth is simple. The more you hold on, the heavier you become. The more you let go, the lighter your soul feels. Clinging, the invisible bondage. We often mistake attachment for safety. We hold tightly to relationships, status, emotions, expectations, thinking that by doing so, we can secure some kind of lasting happiness. But have you noticed? The tighter we grip, the more anxious we become. The more we demand, the more we fear loss. The more we control, the more we feel out of control. Clinging is the root of restlessness. And ironically, it is in the name of love, ambition, or hope that we often end up chaining ourselves to suffering. Letting go, then, is not weakness, it is an act of great wisdom and courage. It is the recognition that peace does not come from grasping, but from surrendering to the truth of the present moment. Letting go isn't cold or careless. To let go does not mean to stop caring. In fact, those who truly let go often love the deepest. Because they no longer try to possess. You can love someone without needing them to fulfill your every expectation. You can succeed without being attached to constant recognition. You can feel sorrow without drowning in it. Letting go doesn't mean stepping away from life, it means walking into life with an open hand, not a clenched fist. Letting go begins within. Letting go doesn't begin by cutting ties or making dramatic changes. It begins with quiet recognition. You notice you're still angry. You realize you're still holding on to something someone said years ago. You see how fear of losing keeps you from fully living. And in that simple act of noticing, you make space. Not to push it away, but to breathe with it. To see it clearly. To release it gently, when the time is right. Everyday practice of letting go. You don't need a mountaintop or a monastery to practice letting go. Each day is full of small invitations. When someone hurts you, can you pause, breathe, and let go of the urge to retaliate? When life doesn't go as planned, can you notice your disappointment, and let go of the need for control? When you achieve something, can you enjoy it without attaching your worth to it? Every release is a return. A return to presence. A return to peace. Letting go doesn't mean losing, it means expanding. What you let go of isn't lost, it simply loses its hold on your heart. You can still love someone, but no longer demand they complete you. You can still strive, but without tying your self-worth to the outcome. You can still dream, but without escaping the beauty of the now. Letting go is how you hold what matters, without being held hostage by it. Letting go is a lifelong journey. You might think you've let something go, only to find it rising again, months or years later. An old resentment. A grief you thought had passed. A fear you thought you had outgrown. That's okay. Letting go is not a one-time act. It's a gentle unfolding. A returning, again and again, to what is real and tender and true. And every time you return, you let go a little more deeply. And every time you release, you become a little more free. A mind that lets go is a mind that soars. As you learn to let go, you'll begin to notice something profound. Life continues as it always has. People are who they are. The world spins, changes, evolves. But your heart no longer spins with it. You become the stillness beneath the movement. You stop reacting and start resting. You smile in both gain and loss. You stay centered amid both praise and blame. You walk peacefully through both arrival and departure. This is the true meaning of freedom. Not the absence of challenges, but the absence of entanglement. Letting go isn't the end, it's the beginning. Each time you release what no longer serves you, you make room for something wiser to arrive. Let go of fear, and you'll meet courage. Let go of old wounds, and you'll meet healing. Let go of the small self, and you'll meet the vastness of your being. Letting go is not about becoming less, it's about becoming whole. Maybe you're still learning how to let go. Maybe you're not ready to release everything just yet. That's perfectly okay. Just start with this. Notice what you're holding. And with each breath, ask gently, can I soften this grip, even just a little? Let that small release be your prayer, your path, your peace. And slowly, step by step, you will return to that sacred place inside. A free heart. A light heart. A heart that holds nothing, and embraces everything. 7. Awakening from within, the path to genuine happiness. Ultimately, every pursuit, whether for possessions, emotions, or even spiritual fulfillment, leads us back to one place. Our own mind. We've long believed that happiness lies somewhere out there, in a person yet to come, a dream job, or a future where everything finally aligns. But through each stumble, each loss, we begin to see. True happiness has never been something to find. It is something to awaken to. It doesn't reside in what we own or achieve, but in how we relate to ourselves, fully, honestly, and mindfully. It is in the moment we stop running and realize we've always carried everything we needed within us. Awakening is not an achievement, it is a return. Spiritual awakening isn't something grand or mystical. It's not a flash of lightning nor a distant mountaintop revelation. It is, rather, the simple and quiet return to what is already here. It begins when we pause long enough to hear the whisper within, when we stop losing ourselves in the noise of striving, comparing, and pretending. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to be who you already are, softened, sincere, and present. And when awareness arises, you stop chasing happiness in the future and start living it in the now. Unconditional happiness, the gift of a quiet mind. The deepest kind of happiness isn't built on perfect circumstances. You don't need a flawless life to feel full. You simply need a mind that no longer resists what is. That doesn't complain, doesn't grasp, doesn't demand. This kind of peace can emerge while doing the dishes. It can arise as you walk quietly, feeling the rhythm of your breath. It can appear during a silent afternoon, listening to the wind move through a window. It comes like morning mist, gentle, subtle, and only visible when the mind is still enough to notice. Awakening doesn't remove pain, it illuminates it. No one escapes sorrow. Awakening doesn't promise a life without sadness, grief, or loss. But it allows us to see suffering clearly, without being consumed by it. You begin to notice your feelings without becoming them. You witness anger arise and pass. You sit with sadness and breathe through it. You embrace your fears with the compassion of an old friend. When awareness meets pain, something shifts. Not because we push it away, but because we fully see it for what it is. True happiness is not found in the ego, but in its dissolving. The ego constantly whispers, "I must be better. I must prove myself. I must win approval." And as long as we follow it, we live in anxiety and tension. But when we turn inward and see how fragile the ego truly is, how much it depends on validation and fear, we begin to let go. We stop needing to be right. Stop needing to impress. Stop needing to win. We begin to simply be present, kind, and content. And that is when real joy blooms. Awakening is a journey, not a destination. There will be days you feel grounded, and days when you feel lost. Sometimes, you'll forget to breathe mindfully or to listen inwardly. That's okay. Awakening doesn't require perfection, only sincerity. Each time you return to the breath, the body, the present, you're back on the path. There is no map. No standard timeline. No one else can walk this for you. It is a sacred journey only you can make, with your own open heart. Living in tune with the Dharma, moving with the universe. As your mind settles, you begin to live in rhythm with something greater than ego. You no longer try to force life to fit your plans. You learn to listen. To yield when needed. To step forward when it is time. You begin to act without attachment, speak with intention, and rest without guilt. Every moment becomes part of a deeper harmony. And in that, you discover the quiet joy of alignment, where happiness is not something earned, but revealed. The true path doesn't lead somewhere else, it leads back to the heart. You could wander the world. Study all the teachings. Try every method. But eventually, you'll discover what you've been seeking is already within you. Compassion, stillness, clarity, none of it is foreign. It simply needs space to be remembered. Sometimes, all it takes is to sit quietly. To breathe deeply. To open to what's already here. And in that moment, you've arrived. Not in some perfect future, but in the present. In your own awakened presence. Conclusion, coming home to the true self within. Throughout this journey, you've stepped through 7 doors. 7 timeless insights that open the way to a more grounded, joyful, and meaningful life. From discovering gratitude in the simple, to connecting with others from a place of truth and compassion. From learning to live in the present moment, to letting go of perfection, to embracing change as a natural part of life, to releasing attachment with grace, and finally, awakening from within. These teachings are not separate. They are like morning dew gently nourishing the roots of the same tree. A tree named mindfulness and awareness. And when you care for that tree, even with the smallest daily practice, the fruits of peace and inner freedom begin to bloom naturally. Can you feel it? Not one part of this path ever asked you to become more. To achieve more. To win, prove, or perform. Instead, every step has gently invited you to simply come back to yourself. Honestly, softly, and fully. There's nothing to chase. Because happiness isn't a goal out there. It's the way you sit with life. It's how you breathe into this moment. It's the tenderness you offer to your own being. And when that happens, you're not on a journey anymore. You've arrived. You've come home. If you felt a quiet shift somewhere within, if something in your heart stirred while listening to these words, then we invite you to subscribe to this channel. Not because we ask for followers, but because this is a space for those who are learning to live awake in a world that often forgets how. Let this channel be a gentle companion, a reminder to return to yourself again and again. To breathe. To slow down. To choose presence over pressure. Stillness over speed. Compassion over perfection. Clicking subscribe is more than a button. It's a quiet vow. Each day, I will return to what matters. Each day, I will listen inward. Each day, I will choose to live with wisdom and love. And maybe, because you chose to walk this path, someone else will find their way here too. And they, too, will remember. They've always been enough. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for choosing the journey back home. We'll meet again. In the next step. The next breath. The next moment of awareness.